Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Ivory, and you are tuned in to the Embracing Neurodiversity podcast, where I share my personal journey of embracing and enhancing the experience of my amazing son who is on the spectrum. Through this journey, I've discovered a lot about myself and continue to grow every day. My goal is to provide you with some useful insights and stories that will inspire you in your own parenting journey. Thank you for tuning in. Hey everybody, as you have heard from my intro, my name is Ivory and welcome to the Embracing Neurodiversity visual podcast. I have been recording a podcast called Embracing Neurodiversity to document my journey as an autism mom for a while now, but I've decided to move over to a visual podcast because I do understand the impact of visuals and how important they can be. I'm a huge YouTube watcher. I subscribe to several informative channels, and I decided to push myself out of my comfort zone and transition my own podcast over to a visual. And it's super awkward to talk into a camera, but here I am. And there will be kinks along the way, but we are going to push along. So, a little bit about me. I am a 14-year educator. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my computer because I want to make sure I hit the bullet points that are necessary for this particular podcast. But a little bit about me. I am a 14-year educator, youth advocate, autism mom. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not an occupational therapist. I'm not a speech therapist. My channel is going to focus on my informative insight that I've gained as a professional and my journey as an autism mom, right? And so I want this channel to be both knowledgeable, best practices, strategies to help you maximize your experience as a parent of a neurodiverse child. But I also want it to be an intimate space to talk about the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the peaks and valleys of being a parent of a neurodiverse child. And I'm going to speak about it from my experience as a mother who is raising a child on the autism spectrum. I read and consume a lot of information that I'm interested in, and I've always embedded myself in learning about multiple intelligence and how people learn. As a teacher, I've been trained on how to teach the way that young people learn through a culturally relevant lens. I've facilitated hundreds of adults on cultural competency and teaching through an equity lens, right? But when I became a parent of a child who is on the autism spectrum, keep in mind, my son is 6 and he's newly diagnosed. And if you want to learn about how I got the diagnosis and my journey with that, please go check out my podcast. I'll link it below. But it wasn't until, honestly, I became a mother of a neurodiverse child that fire just grew, right? Like, I've always been super passionate about equity and teaching the way people learn and making accommodations where necessary. I've always done that in my work with scholars, but things feel a little bit more urgent when you have your own child. I imagine that this channel will be a space to merge the two for me as someone who is knowledgeable in a lot of areas, but also a mother and a human, and trying to navigate how to raise my son to live his highest capacity while applying the things that I know. Also, if you're curious about the term neurodiversity or neurodiverse, I'm going to be using those terms a lot. Check out the link below, and I'll also include like a one-pager with the definitions. I'm also highly interested in personal development. And so with that, how do you both make sure that you find purpose and meaning this journey of parenting, but also taking time out to care for yourself? I'm really clear that all things are lessons that we are to learn in life, even the most difficult things, and there are no mistakes. That is my personal philosophy in life, and that's what I am guided by. And so when difficult things happen, I rule myself in what do I need to learn from this? Where do I need to grow in this space? And I do fundamentally believe that parenting is the primary area that pushes you out of your comfort zone and pushes you to shift your thinking. If done with intention, it can make you a better human being in the world. At my core, when I learn, I feel compelled to teach and hope that the tools I bring as an educator, as an advocate, and as a mother of a child on the spectrum help you on your journey to embrace your own child while caring for yourself. That is the duality of this channel and of embracing neurodiversity in general. It is for parents to fully embrace their child and their child's experience while also caring for themselves. That is going to be vital in this journey. Above all else, like any other mother across this globe, I am super passionate about my son living a fulfilled, meaningful, joyful life. I believe he is capable of doing that, and I am on a mission to make sure that is so. We know that we live in a society that is not always set up for people who think differently to thrive. And because I've been super fortunate to have access to information through my career that has highlighted for me that you can thrive no matter who you are and where you are in your development, that made even more of a mission for me to not only push for my son's experience to be enhanced as a neurodiverse child, but to also support other parents to have that same fire and passion for their child while being kind to themselves and patient with themselves. Like, that is the goal. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight on me. I want to shift over to what I want to focus on for our first video podcast. Thought about what would be something that would be helpful for parents this time of the year. And it's August, is back to school season, right? My son starts school next week, but I know there are a lot of parents who have children who have already started school. And this video may be a little bit long overdue, but it's still useful, right? It's never too late. And so what I want to do today is to provide you with 4 strategies to help maximize you and your child's school experience. We know that as parents of neurodiverse children, that our back to school season is not the same as a neurotypical child. Meaning that for me, you get a little bit of anxiety around what type of teacher is my child going to have? Are they going to fully embrace my child and accept them and advocate for them and ensure that they're learning at their highest capacity? And will they have high standards for my child and compassion for my child? What type of other students will be in the classroom? Will they also be kind and embracing to my child, right? Are the policies that the school have in place beneficial for my child's growth and development? Like, these are the things that parents of neurodiverse children think about, because as I mentioned, we know that we don't live in a society that centers people who think differently. So with that, you can feel children and parents of neurodiverse children can feel that impact in subtle ways and even in direct ways. And so there's always this anxiety, right? Not to mention that for my child who is on the autism spectrum, like, I am real clear that he's very adaptable, but routines are really important. So sometimes when things change, that is difficult for him. And so I have to talk him through that process of what that change will look like. So with that being said, there are plenty of things you can do to maximize your child's school experience and yours. but I want to focus on four today. Four that are the most important or the base level to get you started. If your child is new into the school environment, or if you are someone who is trying to reinvigorate your advocacy for your child in school spaces. Number one, provide visuals. I want to be mindful of those parents who are not arts and crafty, or it's not their strong area to spend a lot of time putting together visuals for their child. There are plenty of resources out there for you to purchase if you can. I'll provide you with some pictures of some things I put together. I'm not very arts and crafty, but I don't mind spending time working on that because I've seen the impact that it has on my son. Providing visuals for your child. Putting together a daily routine before and after school of what your child should expect. That routine is beneficial by the 30-minute to hour mark. The one I created for my son is about 30-minute, 45-minute mark on what to expect before school and after school. I also have a visual of a little boy, a brown boy, and a bus in the school, and it is adjacent to the Monday through Friday days of the week, so that he understands that these are the days that you're going to school. And I always point him into that direction. Okay, Khalil, my son's name is Khalil. Let's go see what's next, or this is what's about to happen today. You're going to school, and I'll point to those images. And then for our routine, particularly the after school routine, when he gets out of school, I have him marked exactly what he should expect to do day 30-minute by 30-minute. You come home, you put your backpack away, you wash your hands, you have snack time, you have free time to play, you can get your iPad for a little bit, then we're going into homework. When I have pictures of those things so that he knows and understands. I don't know, I did not mention this, but my son just finished his first year of kindergarten, so he's going into first grade. And so I'm speaking about these strategies from a lived experience. Incorporated this last year during his first year of school, and it was so helpful for both of us. And when I always am going to incorporate that this is going to be beneficial for you and your child, because if it don't work for you as a parent, it's not going to work for anybody, especially your child. So that visual routine was so important. And then it also enhances their speech development too. So I would point and say, okay, what's next? And when he sees the visual, he's able to verbalize what's next. He'll name it. And so creating visuals around your house are going to be super important. That's number one. Number two, communication. Like, if this is not a strong area of yours, find a way to do it in a way that works for you, whether that is through writing, email, text, I don't know, but communication for all the stakeholders that are going to be invested in you and your child's educational experience. So, of course, you want to always communicate with your child what's happening. That's where those visuals come in, but then also verbally talking to them. Like, whenever there's anything about to happen that's new, I try to tell Khalil ahead of time, and then I'll repeat it throughout the duration and up until it happens. But yeah, communication is going to be super important. And so, yes, with your child, but also with the new teacher that your child will have, their case manager, if they have an EP. I have a podcast about the IP process, and so I'll link that below as well. Any of the support people, the village that you have chosen to help you with you and your child, communicating to them when school starts, the bus stop, drop off, pick up time, when you'll need their support, perhaps, like those things are really important. Quick note, I lived 13 years of my life in Chicago. That's where I have most of my professional experience. And I moved back home to my hometown a little over a year ago because I knew that I needed support in a village to help raise a son. Having a village is so important. And so I include them in the ecosystem, my sons, and so that they, if they're available, can help. And so communicating to those people as well what the schedule Like if you have therapists outside of the school that support your child, speech therapists, occupational therapists, any other, communicating with them as well. The schooling experience, provide them with the IEP, talk to them about your child's goals. That's going to be super vital. So communicating with all the stakeholders is important. That brings me to number 4, getting to know your teacher. And so, yes, communicating with the teacher, but also I think getting to know them a bit more personally is going to be important. Obviously, within reason, boundaries and professionalism are going to be important, but especially if you have a child who is nonverbal or is still working on their speech, it's going to be really important to get to know the type of person that your child is going to be taught by, to understand their perspective and insight. Most schools have a getting to know your teacher day before school starts. Please introduce yourself to your teacher, your child's teacher. Please have grace with your teacher because teaching is hard, speaking from experience, but also set a standard with your child's teacher that you mean business, that you are advocate for your child and that you have expectations for your child and that you want to be on the same page, and see what type of communication style that teacher prefers as well. I was super lucky that my son's first year kindergarten went relatively well, like little to no hiccups, which I know is rare for a lot of parents of children who are on the autism spectrum, because school is hard for our kids in other ways. But I was very grateful that first, my son, he really enjoyed school, but second, he was fortunate to be in a school and in a space with educators and specifically his teacher, and they were really invested in his learning and really patient with his process of adapting. And I say all that to say she was very receptive to me texting her in the morning, during school, after school sometimes, and she would also text me. And I made it very clear in the beginning that you can text me or call me anytime, ever hesitate, because my son is my priority and I want to know everything. So please don't hesitate to call or text me. I mean, she was okay with me doing the same. I wanted to do that within reason. So there were times when perhaps he would come home after school and I had a question about something and I would say, hey, sorry to text you after school hours. You don't have to respond now, and then I would ask the question, right? And so just getting to know your teacher a little bit more personally, going to school events throughout the year so that the school staff can see you and your face and know that you're an active participant is also vital. I hate to say this, but it's a fact from my experience as a school leader and teacher that the students who had the most involved parents were the students who had the most support by educators, other educators and staff members, and those were the students who thrived the most. And so I knew that it was going to be important for my face to be seen in the space that my student was going to be, my child was going to be at on a daily basis. And so as a busy working single mom like that, it's not always easy, but I make it my business to be seen in those school spaces. And so I try to go to events when I can. And this last year, I didn't get a chance to volunteer at anything. So that's on my goal list this year, is to be more involved. So number 3, get to know your teacher, get involved in your school. Last but not least, this is for you. Please find someone or a group of people who you can talk to about your ups and downs and your struggles without fear of judgment and without lack of understanding, because it's a very unique experience to raise a child who is neurodiverse. And I've found that oftentimes when you're talking to people who love and care about you and love and care about your child, they just simply don't understand because that's not their experience, and that's okay. But it is validating when you are able to talk to someone authentically who who literally understands, and there are things that you don't have to say, the nuances you don't have to mention because they understand and hear you. And so it's going to be important for you, if in order for you to have the strength and the courage to advocate for your child when things get difficult and during celebratory times, to have someone or a group of people to talk to about those things. Like, you can't carry it all on you because you will burn out before winter break comes, and there's no benefit for anyone in that. And then also, you're human and you are a parent, but you are a human being, and this is heavy and it's worrisome sometimes. And so it's really important to have a space to get it out. The saying is true, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so when we take in a lot of those concerns and feelings and worries, and even lack of understanding and awareness can be a lot, right? We need to talk about that type of stuff. So find someone that you can talk to who understands your experience. Those are the 4. There are plenty more. Even as I'm speaking now, I'm like, oh my God, I want to tell y'all to also carve out time each day for yourself, like even hour a day, really, where you put your phone on do not disturb and no one has access to you, is just like life changing. And that may not be possible for everyone, but we make time for things that are important to us and that are beneficial to us, and that is highly beneficial. So if you have to wake up early before everyone else in your household wakes up, do that. If you have to stay up later when everyone else is asleep, do that so you can sit back and hear your thoughts and journal and meditate, or have a glass of wine, whatever the case may be. Watch reality TV if you want to, but just have a moment to yourself. That's going to be really important. That's, I guess, like an honorable mention. But anyway, I hope that these 4 tips were helpful to you. I'm going to include a bunch of resources at the bottom so that you all can have access to that too. Also, check out my website. I provide plenty of resources and support. And if you're interested in more, don't hesitate to reach out. I want to truly and genuinely wish all of the parents out there whose child is starting school, like, good energy and good vibes, and hold on to yourself, hold on to your child. You will not just make it through this, but you will thrive through this if you are intentional about doing so. So until next time, have a great school year, and I'm going to post weekly. Fingers crossed. I'll see you all next week.